Ever wondered why some people are driven to take extraordinary risks?
Have you ever known anyone to die from it?
Yeah, like 20 or something.
My name is Dr. Jack Lewis. I'm a neuroscientist and on a journey to meet people with incredible brains.
Your brain is extraordinary.
With my magician friend, Mr. Pete Heat, I want to explore the most vital of vital organs.
I've got my teenage brain back.
In this episode, I discover why most of us are hardwired to avoid extreme risks,
That is vile. That's like rotten feet.
and whether we can retrain our brains to take more risk.
There's a lot we can learn about neuroscience and the science of the human mind.
Now pay attention. You'll learn how to assess risk like your life depends on it. Because it does.
Join me to uncover the secrets of the brain. Sometimes risk-taking can completely defy logic. Reason can't explain why people do some of the impulsive things they do. The million-dollar question for neuroscience is why do some risk-takers come back for more over and over again? And if we can find out why, is it then possible to change the way our own brains react to risk?
One man who loves to take a risk is magician Pete Heat. Pete wants to find out how people react when faced with a serious risk, even if they're not the ones taking it. Let's just say that he's got a point to prove.
You take a lot of risks in your day-to-day life.
Not really.
Not
I
really?
don't know.
Yeah, what about you?
Depends on how many drinks I've had.
Is it? Okay, yeah. I'm about to take a very stupid risk, okay? Which is the reason I asked that. We've got some cups, and we've got the natural enemy of the cup, the spike, okay? Before we do this, can you check that that is actually quite a sharp, horrible spike?
That is a sharp, horrible spike.
We're gonna play a little game. Okay. I'm gonna put these cups out like that in a little row, and I'm gonna get you to put the spike under any one of these 4 cups, okay? But you can mix the cups around, you can put the spike under any cup you want. Make sense?
Yeah. If it goes wrong, is it my fault?
If it goes wrong, it's entirely your fault, and I will prosecute you to the full extent of the law.
Sweet.
Okay, so if you close your eyes and look over there, I'm gonna close my eyes and look over there. I want it to be completely random where it ends up.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't know where it is. I don't know where it is, and you do. Okay. So a risk is something where there's a chance that you'll lose. Okay, so in this case, if I lose, I'd end up with a spike through my hand.
Oh my God.
And the risk gets greater each time. That was 1 in 4, okay?
Yeah.
This time, the risk is 1 in 3.
Don't do any more.
And to risk your hand in this way when you're a professional magician is a very stupid thing to do. So I'm guessing the spike
That
is...
was the one. For the end. Disaster.
Oh my God.
How did you know it was that one?
I'm glad it was.
So loads of magicians have just told him their hands.
Thanks.
I'm shaking, and I knew which one it was.
Really fast.
How we respond to taking a risk reveals an extraordinary chain reaction. In a split second, Pete's audience have risk assessed the situation. And to understand the neuroscience of this process is to understand a key part of how our brains make decisions.
One of the primary regions involved in the brain's perception and calculation of risk is the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia takes in signals from all other areas of the brain and can combine those in a way that allows it to evaluate whether something is good or bad.
As soon as I saw the spike, I just had visions of it impaled through his hand.
I was terrified.
I was getting pretty worried for him because his hand was shaking. I definitely felt relieved at the end.
I knew what was coming. I just didn't want to be responsible for a nail through his hand.
So, Pete's made his point. Most people are very uncomfortable taking a serious risk. But there is a part of the brain, it's deep within the basal ganglia, that can actually reward the risky behaviours associated with dangerous living.
Recent MRI studies have revealed that some brains are inherently more inclined to take risks, and it's these daredevils that could just hold the key.
We have to take some risk. Without taking any risk, we won't have any progress and we won't explore our environment, so we won't learn. On the other hand, if we take too much risk, then we can get severely hurt.
The past 10 years has seen a rise in a truly risk-fueled phenomenon: urban free climbing. The people who do it will literally go to any height for a kick, even if it often means breaking the law by entering private property. I'm on my way to meet one man who's made a name for himself in this dangerous world. A man who clearly loves risk more than most, climbing bridges, radio masts and skyscrapers illegally and with no formal training.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. So here you do a bit of climbing?
Yeah, climb skyscrapers, rooftops, cranes.
If you suddenly feel compelled to jump up a building, don't do it, because as soon as you do, we're going to have to switch the camera off.
24-year-old Matt Adams is a serial thrill seeker. One of his highlights was climbing the world-famous Lloyd's building here in the heart of London's financial district.
Oh my gosh, this is climbing the building behind us.
Yeah, that's on this top corner here.
Oh my God, I keep forgetting that there's no safety harnesses. This is completely free climbing. What's different about you?
Yeah, I was always into like extreme sports and stunts and stuff like that.
So from what kind of age did you do that? I'm just trying to get a sense of the trajectory.
Like 13, 14.
So that's when the thrill of danger, if you like, started taking on a slightly different meaning to you.
Yeah.
That's key. Matt's desire for risky adventure suddenly kicked into gear during his adolescence. His normal childhood gave way to especially risk-filled teenage years.
The classic group within our society who take risks are teenagers. If we're going to be able to assess the risk of situations that we encounter in the future, we need to have actually encountered them. We need to take those chances to provide us with opportunities.
But what happens when the danger of taking a risk far outweighs the benefits? Surely the analytical reasoning parts of our brains would come to the conclusion that it's time to stop.
Would you say it's a compulsion in your life?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I'd always do it no matter what, so.
And do you accept that there's a lot of risk involved in what you do?
Yeah, 100%.
Have you ever known anyone to die from it?
Yeah, quite a few people in the online community that we all like speak to and are friends with have.
Quite a few?
Yeah, like 20 or something.
20?
What's also extraordinary to me is that Matt is painfully aware of what can happen if a foot slips or a handhold gives way.
Yeah, I fell 30 foot, broke both my heels, my sacrum, 2 parts of my spine, my arm and my wrist.
This is central to a huge question in neuroscience. Why is someone like Matt so much more inclined to take risks than the rest of us? Despite the law, a broken back and the ever-present risk of death, part of Matt's brain still pushes him to climb.
If I was you, having broken all parts of all of my limbs, I would be very reluctant to get back on that horse.
I didn't think it should have been a reason to stop climbing because it's something I love so much and I'm so passionate about.
Something in the brains of all those involved in this life-threatening activity clearly compels them to make these astonishingly dangerous climbs, regardless of the risks involved.
Do you think your brain is different from other people's, given your love of this kind of extreme risk-taking activity?
Potentially, it would kind of make sense, I think, yeah.
Would you be interested in finding out if your brain's different?
Yeah, definitely. Let's do it.
Let's find out.
Coming up, we'll follow Matt as he's tested by an expert in risky behaviour.
See, that's a little shock, but...
Matt's risk-taking is so shocking because we usually associate spotting and then avoiding risks with our survival. So what's going on? How and why does his brain process risk so differently?
Neuroscientists have been studying the reward processing and cognitive control systems that affect our decision-making for years. But some of the latest research has centered on the basal ganglia, as certain regions, particularly the striatum, appear to be deeply involved in addictive processes, from habitual risk-taking to drug addiction. All of these hijack the brain's reward system and seem to be very difficult to overcome. It all revolves around dopamine, a neurotransmitter that helps to regulate the brain's reward and pleasure centers.
The other side of the coin to risk is reward. When we encounter a risky situation, the payoff can be a rewarding new experience of something that we haven't encountered before. When we have reward in the brain, this operates and rewards the dopamine system.
We all have completely different attitudes to risk. You wouldn't take certain risks I'd be happy with, and Matt certainly does things that I wouldn't dream of. But what if we change the stakes? What if we do something far less scary than climbing up the outside of skyscrapers? I'm going to see if people will be willing to take the risk of randomly selecting and eating one of these jelly beans. Now, some of them, they taste great, but others are absolutely disgusting. Vomit-flavored jelly bean, anyone? So there's some jelly beans here, but half of them taste really bad. We've got mouldy cheese, we've got grass clippings,
lovely,
and we've also got slime. Would you be willing to take the risk?
No.
No? Will you take the plunge?
Yeah, sure, let's go.
Grab one. Half of these taste horrible, half of these taste beautiful. Would you like one?
No.
No?
No.
Do we have a winner?
Oh, no, that's delightful.
Lovely.
I like that. I don't know what that tastes like.
Tastes like marshmallow.
Hey, you're a winner.
When a risky situation pays off, the brain releases dopamine, and this allows the brain to learn that this was a risky situation that we should take the risk in. And that release of dopamine in itself is a pleasant experience, which can make it an addictive thing and can lead you to want to take further risks.
Not risk averse. How was that one?
Well, not absolutely appalling, so it must be good.
Yes!
Now, having got their hit of dopamine, will my sugar-loving volunteers take the same risk again?
Are you willing to give it another go?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
No hesitation whatsoever. Are we winner or loser this time?
No, we're a loser this time.
What's that?
I don't know, but it's horrid. God, it's horrible. I can't describe it. I don't know.
Really bad.
Really?
Oh, that is vile. That's like rotten feet.
You got the chili one. Okay, so now here's the big question. You've got a horrible flavour in your mouth. Suddenly the stakes have changed again. Would you be willing to risk taking another one to either make the taste in your mouth worse or maybe make it better?
I think I'll just stop here.
Very good.
Now, this seemingly simple experiment might just help to solve the first part of the puzzle that is Matt's brain. He's part of an exceptionally high risk-taking group of people.
Wow.
Oh, that's better. That's much better.
It's young men who are most comfortable taking the bigger risks. So you fit the bill perfectly, sir.
Lovely, lovely.
Thank you very much for helping out.
No problem at all.
And you?
You are young. And me?
Yes!
No, I'm joking. Oh no, this is vomit. Oh my God. No, that's cheese.
For some people who seem to have a particularly active dopamine system, there's the risk of becoming addicted to risks themselves, to the reward, and the big reward that you get off from these unforeseen situations.
Matt said that he suddenly upped his risk-taking in adolescence. That's because during this period, his brain was undergoing some remarkable changes. Regions in his brain that contribute to its ability to make decisions are still developing in adolescence. And neuroscience has discovered that during this process, the dopamine system of the teen brain, particularly in boys, goes into overdrive. Coming up, I'll be joining one of the boldest climbers out there to see if I can unleash my own teenage brain and rediscover the joys of taking a risk.
Oh, that that was horrible. But first, I've sent Matt to meet one of the pioneers in this area of research, Dr. Agnes Norbury. Agnes believes that the brain mechanisms underlying the personality traits of people who like to take big risks like Matt work differently from the rest of us.
People who are high sensation seekers are often willing to take risks for the sake of intense sensory experiences. Individuals who are higher sensation seekers or risk takers show blunted stress responses when faced with risk-taking situations.
Matt has made the journey to Cambridge to find out more.
Hi, you must be Matt. Come on in. Thanks for coming in.
Researchers have discovered that in a risk-taker's brain, there appear to be fewer dopamine-inhibiting receptors, which means that the daredevil's brains are more saturated with the chemical than normal, which predisposes them to keep taking those big risks and chasing the next high. Could this explain urban free climber Matt's incredible desire for risk? To find out, Agnes has put together a simple test in the lab. Here's how it works. Agnes will show Matt a series of pictures.
So I'm going to show you some images of what you're going to see on the screen when you're doing the task.
She tells Matt that if he taps a space bar on certain images, he'll get points. But if he taps a different image, he could get points and an electric shock.
For some pictures, if you choose them, you'll never get a buzz. And for some pictures, if you choose them, there's a chance of getting a buzz. So
the question is, will he go hunting for points regardless of the risks, or will he be risk averse and be careful which image he selects? This test should reveal where on the risk-taking spectrum Matt stands.
I'm just going to pop these little electrodes onto the back of your hand. And then when we pass a little brief current through them, you're going to feel a sensation that's kind of like a little buzz or vibration. Does that feel all right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you ready for your first one?
Yes.
Okay, great. Can you feel anything now?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Oh, that is weird.
And if you're ready, then we can start the task.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah? The only difference is...
What Agnes is looking for here is the extent to which Matt chooses either to avoid or self-administer a mild electric shock.
Couple of seconds. So for each one, if you could just move the cursor around on the scale with the arrow keys and then press the
Matt's test begins.
when it's in
And bizarrely, despite being fully able to avoid the shock, he appears to be actively choosing it as much as the picture, which gives him just the reward.
See, that's a little shock.
Matt flies through his test the way he climbs up a building, absolutely fearlessly. And his decision-making reveals that his brain does indeed operate differently from the rest of us.
Okay, great. So that's you all done. Thanks for taking part in that.
Agnes thinks Matt does exhibit the traits of a classic sensation seeker. But the results also reveal that he's more selective than others on her study.
You're willing to take risks in order for things that you want to do, but only because you're strongly motivated by where you want to go with that.
Yeah, that makes sense, definitely.
Yeah. But you're not just doing it just for the sake of getting that sort of crazy dopamine hit right at the end of the scale. Yeah,
There's definitely more of a reason to it.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Well, Agnes is currently testing other thrill seekers, but this time in an MRI scanner. Using those results, she's able to show Matt exactly where and why she thinks his brain works differently from the rest of us. The scan monitors exactly what parts of their brains respond to the threat of the electric shock.
So the reason we made you experience all those shocks is we were interested in how people who are motivated by sort of intense and unusual sensory experiences. And what was really interesting that we found is that for people who like to shock themselves, they encoded getting the shock reward in the same way as if they were getting money. So you're not just climbing the buildings for the hell of it.
The MRI scans showed that for some people, even the anticipation of an electric shock actually activates an area of the brain associated with pleasure.
So this little red blob is in a part of your brain called the ventral medial prefrontal cortex. And this area in particular is associated with people weighing up lots of different kinds of rewards. So we found that for people who were giving themselves the shock inside the scanner, they were showing activity in this part of the brain which looked like they were treating it the same way as other rewards. In contrast, there were people who really avoided the shocks. And in these people's brains, we saw really strong activation in an area called the insula, which is involved in response to things which are aversive or painful or unpleasant. And they encoded getting the sensation in the same way as losing money. So this was a very strong response in people who avoided the shock. And interestingly, this sort of aversive stay-away response was almost completely absent in the people who like to go the shocks.
This explains why some people seek out dangerous sensations. For them, it's the risk itself that's the reward.
In some level, people who like to go after intense experiences are treating that in the same way as any other kind of reward, which is really interesting.
I'll be catching up with Matt later on to talk him through his shocking results.
That is, I think, key to it.
But what Agnes' research reveals is that deconstructing the risk-taking process in our brains is far from straightforward. Alongside the basal ganglia, which seems essential for the reward aspect of taking a risk, Agnes mentioned another part of the brain which provides the balance. A walnut-sized structure deep in the brain that's always assessing the risk. It's called the anterior insular cortex. When it sees a threat, it makes sure other areas of the brain are aware. The question is, why isn't this happening in Matt's brain? To understand and see if I can suppress my own anterior insula, I'm putting myself in the firing line. Hazel Findlay has been climbing for 20 of her 26 years. She was the British junior champion 6 times and was the first British woman to free climb El Capitan in Yosemite. But Hazel also has a reputation for helping climbers to overcome their fear of risk.
I'm a coach for mental training for climbing, and so I think about this a lot.
She claims that with practice and experience, you can make those situations that should feel terrifying feel normal.
There's a lot we can learn about ourselves and about not only just the neuroscience and the science of the human mind, but also just about ourselves personally.
And I'm really hoping that she's right. Here we are up in the mountains of sunny Spain. I'm off to meet one of Europe's finest female climbers, a lady called Hazel Findlay. Unlike Matt, she's made a career out of risk. And I'm here to understand how she deals with risk. Because when I was younger, I used to love nothing more than throwing myself in the path of danger. And I've basically become a big scaredy cat. So hopefully, with Hazel's help, I'm going to change my brain's response to risk and get back to enjoying the thrill of danger. Hazel's touted as the best female climber in Britain. But unlike Matt, instead of skyscrapers, she tackles mountains. That is insane. If that was me, I'd have been petrified from beginning to end. The anterior insula would be measuring the risk around me, particularly when I look down. It's going to go through the roof in terms of its activity. And then there's the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain which would make me feel very risk averse. Essentially, it would be telling me, get the hell out of here. This is really risky. It's not worth it. Run away. But she looks like she's just going for a walk in the park. Her body language, it suggests there is no fear in her heart and absolutely no sense of risk whatsoever. Hazel.
Hi, Jack.
How you doing? You all right?
Not bad, how are you?
Good. I enjoyed watching you climb. You look pretty relaxed up there. You seemed like you perceived no risk whatsoever at any moment, but was that just an illusion?
Well, that climb you just saw me do is way within my comfort zone as a climber because I've been climbing so long.
To monitor how calm Hazel's body and brain are, we attached a heart rate monitor to her before the climb.
So we started at 85, and then, you know, a good couple of minutes in, you're up to 130 or so, and you stayed around there. But the bit that I thought was really interesting is right at the end, where you dropped all the way back down to 95. It was when you just let go of the mountain, dropped off it, and were hanging by the rope, which for me would have been the scariest bit. You relaxed.
So at the height of a 10-story building, the risks involved still cause no sense of fear for Hazel. Her brain must have a very different response to risk than mine.
You have to accept that there is risk, and you have to accept that you may become injured climbing, you may even die. We're still afraid. So really we have to do a lot of work to train our minds so that we can climb to our absolute physical maximum. Although you can kind of like intellectually know that it's safe to fall, until you experience that feeling of the rope catching you and the harness catching you, you'll just be scared.
Oh, I don't want to do that.
The more the brain is exposed to what it's really like, the more it can adapt, and so that sense of peril can be diminished to the point where you can just enjoy what you're doing.
Hazel's promised me that she's going to be able to use a combination of knowledge and experience to help me retrain my brain.
Well, what most people are scared of when they're climbing is falling off. What we'll do is we'll do a bunch of practice falls.
Oh, no.
And so essentially it's a type of exposure therapy. Have you ever heard of this?
Yeah, I have. Oh, great.
Yeah.
This bit of my brain right here, it's called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. That's the bit that makes me risk averse now that I am no longer a teenager. And so, what we're going to do through exposure therapy is retrain my dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and not be so overactive in the face of risk, so that I can hopefully enjoy it again, like I did when I was a young man. Through repetition, exposure therapy retrains the brain, altering how it reacts. My insular cortex will still recognize the risk, but the training will mean areas of my prefrontal cortex will react differently to it. Key to Hazel's training is enabling the brain to change the perception of risk. However deeply ingrained and biologically programmed we are to avoid, for example, great heights. The reality is, it's easier said than done. Take a look at this. We're going to show you 4 pairs of risks. Which do you think presents the greater threat? First up, selfies and sharks. On the left, the photo obsession of the smartphone age. On the right, a relentless killing machine. Next, vending machines and alligators, snacks and soda, or a deadly bite. Then, rickety ladders or fearsome bolts of lightning. Finally, venomous snakes and ferocious, mean chihuahuas. So how do you think you got on? Do you think you managed to identify the deadlier risks? Well, your choices might seem logical, but statistics suggest you're wrong. Sharks kill about 8 people worldwide every year, but risky selfies kill a third more. Remarkably, vending machines kill 6 times more people than alligators, and ladders take out 4 times more people than lightning. And lapdogs? Well, there, you're probably right. So, what have we found out so far? Well, essentially, risk is a battle between the parts of our brain hungry for reward and those other parts of our brain, such as the anterior insula, that help to keep us safe.
Would you like one?
No.
No?
No.
But Matt's brain appears to be hardwired to perceive the risk itself as the reward, and he's not alone. Pete Heat is only too happy to take advantage of other risk takers, especially when it's for money.
Do you two ever gamble? Like, do you ever go to the casino? Do you ever play cards, anything like that?
Once, that's about
Once?
it, yeah.
Do you win much?
No.
Do either of you have a banknote on you?
Yeah.
Yeah? There you go, that's perfect. Could you put your name in the middle there so that you'll recognise it when you're next to it? And then can you fold the banknote in half? Okay, perfect. And then fold it again the other way? That's cool, okay. We're going to play kind of a version of Russian roulette. Do you know what that is, right? But instead of risking my life, We're going to risk your banknote. Okay, so we've got some envelopes here. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put that in the first envelope. I'm going to get you to seal that for me if you can. Just seal it down. Perfect. Also, we've got 4 other envelopes. Okay, these ones have all just got like scrap paper in them, so we're going to seal them up as well. So we've got 5 envelopes in total. In fact, you know what, let me give those to you. Okay, and can you mix them up so that even you don't know which one has got your banknote in? Okay, yeah. Do you genuinely not know which one it's in?
No, no.
I'm going to get you to do one more thing. I'm going to get you to number each envelope, so from 1 to 5. So if you take the lid off the pen again. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to get you to name a number from 1 to 5 at random, and whichever number you name, you're going to hand me that envelope. I'm going to rip it in half and put it in the bin.
Oh, risky. 5.
Okay, give me number 5. That's getting ripped and it's going in the bin. We've got one envelope left. All right, man. All right, give me a number between 1 and 5. Go.
3.
Okay.
Do I need to tell you I'm here?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. I'm nervous. 1.
Okay, that one's next, yeah? Okay. So we've got 2 left. So what numbers have we got?
2 and 4.
We've got 2 and 4. Which one's going in the bin?
2.
It's a risk, isn't it?
It is a massive risk. Okay. It's basic.
2's going in the bin. Now, open up the envelope you're left with. Oh, whoa.
I hope it's going to fall out of here or something, bro.
So is it definitely not in there?
It says it's part of the trick. Yeah, no, it's not. Am I looking
but well, I mean, you knew the rules of the game. You agreed to play. Why did you agree to play?
Trues, actually.
You know what? You've been holding that pen since, well, for the whole trip. You've numbered the envelopes, you signed the banknote. You take the cap off the pen, you'll find it doesn't write anymore. Look, no, try and. It doesn't write. And the reason it doesn't write is because now there's no ink cartridge in it.
Why?
Open it up for me if you can. So you need to really pull it.
Woo! Oh! What the hell? What the hell? Shut up, has he got his signature? Don't say it's got my signature on it. That's gonna baffle me. Oh my god. Shut up, man. That's ridiculous. Oh my god, bro. This magic pen. He's a don. He's a don.
The ink barrel.
Oh, that's so cool! That is as well. That's so weird.
Pete repeated the trick with other volunteers.
Oh my god.
And while everyone reacted, it was the younger males who seemed to get the biggest thrill out of it.
I knew there was a risk involved, but I don't know, I liked the little gamble.
Well, when he started ripping up the notes, I was hoping, sorry Dave, that he was going to rip up his tenner.
As he started tearing up the envelopes, my heart kind of dropped. It was just like, there is a tenner in there, you just don't know which one it is in.
I don't get that, actually. How do you get it in the pen? That's what I want to know.
I think even if you gave me 20 minutes to try and roll that note into the pen, I think it'd be difficult.
Yeah. It did not leave my side. It was so weird. Mind is blown.
Okay, so that's proof that whatever age you are, you take a risk with Pete at your own peril. Now, Pete may have taken advantage of teenage brains more willing to take a risk, but even they were out of their comfort zone. Magic plays on our sense of the unexpected, on taking a risk without prior experience of the outcome. Pete's about to toss a coin. All you need to do is guess whether it'll be heads or tails. Heads. Are you a winner or a loser? How about double or quits? Heads again. That might have thrown some of you. Fancy double or quits again, or have you had enough? 3 times in a row. Now that's got your attention. All right, let's go for 4. 4 times. Whew, that's bizarre. Had enough of waiting for your luck to change? Well, the truth is that if you're a winner right now, you'll probably stick. If you're a loser, you're more likely to try and win it back. 8 heads in a row? That's extraordinary. Now, of course, Pete did have a little magic trick in getting that coin toss to work just as he wanted, but this simple exercise reveals that most of us tend to avoid risk when contemplating potential gains, but seek risk to avoid losses.
So when we face a risky situation, the first thing is to assess whether it's similar to something we've encountered before. And part of the judgment of risk is whether this is mapping onto our prior experience.
But what does that all mean for the rest of us? If we now know how thrill seekers' brains work, can we recalibrate the way our own brains perceive risk? Can our prefrontal cortex be taught over time that some risks are worth taking? Can I embrace risk as the reward? Time to test it out for myself and put my risk-averse brain in the hands of a master trainer. Now, Hazel believes that rather than immediately expecting the key areas of my prefrontal cortex to suddenly discover the joys of dangling off a mountain, I first need to find a way to remove fear from the situation. And that is where exposure therapy comes in. Want to try it for yourself? Take this lovely, calming view. Enjoy the gentle sounds. Did that shock you? Don't worry, just relax. Less of a surprise? Each time the surprise is repeated, the sense of shock that comes with it is diminished. The exposure has worked. Today I'm off to meet Hazel again. This time it's going to be me in the hot seat climbing, and hopefully she's going to help to reprogram my brain to get over this thing where my perception of risk seems to be much greater than the reality. So I know roughly what we're doing. You're going to drop me off of this?
Yep, if you come to the edge here.
That's horrible. So by the end of this, will I feel less fear?
Yeah, that's the idea.
And so you'll be recalibrating my brain's perception of the perceived risk compared to the reality of the risk.
Exactly. So, you ready? Should we go?
All right then, if we must.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm finding the prospect of doing what I'm about to do pretty daunting. The anterior insula, you know, it sends a message, a sort of visceral message of the risk of the situation you're in. But the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the bit that either says, yeah, go and plunge into this, or why don't you run away? And yeah, that bit's lively at the moment.
When confronted with a potentially risky situation, our memories of previous situations that might be similar to this feed in as a starting point to what our assessment might be. Then this is evaluated by the frontal cortex in terms of the possible choices we could make when confronted with this decision. And then at a certain point, a decision has to be made and a choice taken.
So I just had a look at my heart rate. When Hazel was just sat around doing nothing, it's like 50, 60. When she's standing up, waiting to climb, 80. I'm just sitting here and it's 90 doing nothing. So imagine what it's going to be like when I'm hanging off of there and then when I'm told, let go. I don't know why I let them talk me into this. It's a terrible idea.
I'm coming! Don't drop me!
Yeah, that's good.
That's great.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Let me out slowly.
Okay, over you go.
No! I haven't looked down yet because right now I'm this far off the ground in my mind, so my perceived risk is low. Now I'm going to look down.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
I don't like it. What do I do?
Okay, so Without any training, all you're going to do is hold on to the top and you're going to let go whenever you're ready.
This genuinely is a first for me, and I'm not enjoying it. Or should I say, my brain is not enjoying it.
I'm coming, Nick. 3, 2, 1. Oh, that was horrible. Oh, I'm having a heart attack.
That feeling is not a heart attack. While my heart rate shot up to 190, the biggest change was in my brain. Many areas have gone into overdrive, my anterior insula included, and those key areas of my prefrontal cortex were telling me to run. But that's not an option.
That was horrible. What were you thinking, you big bully?
I'm sorry. So the first thing we're going to do is practice actually you hitting the wall. So Nico, can you lower him down a little bit? Okay, that's good. So now I want you to just like jump around like this. And practice.
Oh, that's so horrible.
And yeah, and try to have your hands free and relaxed. So really bend your legs when you come back in to take the shot.
Technique obviously helps, but my response to the perceived risk is still very present. Hopefully Hazel will be able to help me change this, and ideally, pretty fast.
We're going to do a bit of a breathing exercise to make it better for you. Controlling your breathing evokes the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the counter to the sympathetic nervous system, which is causing this fear response of stress.
Okay, because if you feel like you're in control of your breath, then I guess you feel like you're in control in general.
Yeah.
So you could actually switch the fear response off and perceive less danger. Okay, that's an exciting prospect.
You're going to do an in and an out breath before you go.
Uh-huh.
And then you're going to go in again, and right at the start of your second exhale, you're going to let go. Because the fear comes from the apprehension of the fall.
Yes.
So it's,
yes, it does.
Yeah. So instead of a scream, I want to hear a...
I don't know if I can promise you that.
I'm going to be very pleased if this works. I don't think I've ever wanted my mind to be remodeled quite so much.
Oh, wow! That really worked.
You landed like a cat.
I can't believe how much more in control I was. I really want to go again.
No noise.
That was great. That was really good. And your heart rate actually dropped whilst you were doing the breathing.
Did it?
Yeah. So in the scariest part of that situation, which is right before the fall, your heart rate dropped.
Yes! Challenge completed. I'm absolutely exhausted in both body and mind, but very glad to be alive.
Terra firma. Thank you for not
Well done.
killing me.
You did very well. Very impressed.
It's really interesting to think about what's happened in my own brain over the course of just essentially an hour's training. The prospect, even before I came here, of falling off a cliff was daunting.
How's it going?
I don't like it. Then I slowly built up faith in what was going on. I started to enjoy it. And to be honest, right now, I just want to do more and more and more. I want to go higher. I want to take longer drops. I want to up the ante. And of course, that must be exactly what happened to Matt. Once he'd acquired a taste for the pleasures that can be derived from really, really risky activities, presumably it just makes the rest of life seem a bit bland, a bit vanilla. So I've got a window into what's been going on in Matt's brain over the years, just through a couple of hours spent dangling off a cliff, which is pretty remarkable. Yeah, I've got my teenage brain back. So it's been a good day.
Yeah, that's on this top corner here.
So, it's been quite a journey to try and unlock the secrets of Matt's brain, to reveal why he suddenly became such a thrill seeker and why now he's seemingly unable to stop.
Gosh, this is climbing the building behind us.
But after experiencing that dopamine rush of hanging off a cliff edge, I have a newfound understanding that no MRI scan could possibly have given me.
Oh, that was horrible.
It's time to meet up with Matt again and talk through how he went from being an average kid into a teenager who was ready to put his life on the line for the sheer thrill of it.
From a neuroscience perspective, the human brain shifts into a very different gear when puberty comes along. And essentially what happens is the dopamine circuits in your brain, which are very much involved in creating sort of feelings of pleasure when you do exciting stuff, they get cranked up hugely. Dopamine response is not just about feeling pleasure in the moment, it also incentivizes us to pursue future pleasures.
As you go through puberty, the regions of the brain which are involved in reward sensitivity are developing faster. This means that there's a sort of spike in sensation-seeking and risk-taking behaviour around age 14 or 16.
But the big question for me was, why has his thrill-seeking behaviour continued? As we mature, another part of the brain develops and it changes our attitude to risk again. But Matt appears to have bypassed this.
Later on in late adolescence, parts of the prefrontal cortex behind your forehead, they reach maturity. These are the bits that enable you to put the brakes on. So when you feel like compelled to do something risky, you're more likely to go, whoa, 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 hang on, is it really worth it?
His shock test with Agnes may have confirmed that Matt's brain is happy to run risks to get rewards, but it was qualified. He's not a completely mindless thrill seeker, and this dangerous behaviour only manifests itself in one important part of his life.
It is reasonable to assume that if someone is very risk-taking in a physiological way, so likes to, jump from high places, it's not necessarily the case that that same person will take risks in love, for example. And it's not necessarily the case that it will be the same neural networks.
I only hope that understanding his brain a little bit better might help Matt to think twice before putting himself in such danger. But that looks unlikely.
In your brain, your prefrontal cortex would have developed the ability to rein in the impulse if you deemed it inappropriate. Right. But you don't use that machinery that would enable you as a fully grown adult to check your impulses, right, because on the whole, it tends to lead to good things for you, yeah, apart from the criminal record.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd still do it if there was no risk? Let's say someone wanted to film you doing it somewhere where it was legal to do it and they insisted you had harnesses and ropes.
No, it wouldn't interest me.
So the risk is a huge part of it?
Yeah.
That is key to it. So I've rediscovered my teenage brain, and Matt has found out why he's having a little bit of trouble growing out of his. Having to calculate risk under all sorts of different circumstances is a huge part of being human. On the one hand, it helps to keep us alive. On the other, it helps us to push the boundaries. The key is finding a healthy balance between the two.